The massive Dravik warships hung in Earth's orbit like obsidian knives against the blue-white backdrop of the planet. Admiral Elena Vasquez stood on the observation deck of Orbital Defense Station Olympus, her weathered face illuminated by emergency lighting. Tactical displays showed over 300 alien vessels positioned in a perfect formation that surrounded Earth's defensive grid. "They've bypassed all our outer system defenses," Lieutenant Commander Jackson reported, his voice steady despite the implications. "No shots fired. They just appeared. And now they wait," Elena said, watching as the primary diplomatic channel indicator blinked. "They want to talk." The holographic projection materialized in the center of the command deck. A tall, angular being with iridescent scales and multiple eyes arranged in an unsettling pattern addressed them in flawless English. "People of Earth, I am Supreme Executor Voldrek of the Galactic Hegemony Council. Your species has been evaluated and found to possess dangerous technological advancement potential without corresponding ethical safeguards. The Council has voted. You will surrender your most advanced research facilities and accept oversight, or face immediate pacification." Elena's eyes narrowed. "And if we refuse both options?" The alien's multiple eyes blinked in sequence. "Then we will demonstrate why no species has ever refused. You have 6 Earth hours to prepare your representatives for Council chambers. There, you will accept our generous terms." As the transmission cut, Elena activated the secure line to the United Earth Defense Council. "Madam President, they're expecting submission, but I think they've made a critical error in their assessment." "What's that, Admiral?" "They've studied our technology, our weapons, maybe even our history, but they clearly haven't studied human psychology." Elena's lips curved into a tight smile. They have no idea who they're dealing with. Behind her, Earth's orbital defense platforms silently reoriented, and deep beneath the lunar surface, Project Prometheus, humanity's most closely guarded secret, began powering up for the first time. The emergency meeting of the United Earth Defense Council convened. Within 30 minutes of the alien ultimatum, representatives from every major nation sat around a circular table in the underground command bunker beneath Geneva. President Rivera stood at the head of the table, her face grim as Admiral Vasquez's report concluded on the main screen. "So we have 6 hours before they expect our representatives to appear before this Galactic Council." "Yes, Madam President," Elena confirmed. "Based on their positioning, they could eliminate our orbital defenses in minutes. But they want this to appear legitimate, a willing submission rather than a conquest." Director Marcus Thompson of Global Intelligence leaned forward. "Our deep space monitoring stations picked up unusual energy signatures 3 days ago, but nothing that suggested an invasion fleet. These ships have technology far beyond our conventional understanding." "Conventional being the key word," Dr. Amara Okafor interjected. The lead scientist of Project Prometheus rarely attended defense meetings, and her presence caused a stir among the representatives. "Project Prometheus is operational. We can deploy within the 6-hour window," murmurs spread around the table. Project Prometheus had been the most secret scientific endeavor in human history, a joint effort by Earth's leading minds to develop technology based on recovered alien artifacts found buried on Mars decades earlier. "Are you certain it will work?" the president asked. "The theoretical models are sound," Dr. Okafor replied, "but this would be the first full-scale test." General Thomas Way, commander of Earth's Special Operations Division, spoke up. "If Prometheus fails, we'll have revealed our trump card for nothing. Perhaps we should appear to negotiate while preparing conventional countermeasures." Admiral Vasquez shook her head. "Their scans are too advanced. They'll detect any major military movements. But there's something about their approach that doesn't make sense. If they're as powerful as they seem, why give us time at all? Why not simply take what they want?" "Because this isn't about Earth's resources or even our technology," Dr. Okafor said quietly. "They're afraid of what we might become." The room fell silent. "Explain," the president commanded. Dr. Okafor activated a holographic display showing complex equations and energy patterns. Project Prometheus began by reverse engineering alien technology, yes. But what we discovered went far beyond that. Humans have a unique capacity to conceptualize dimensional relationships that, according to the artifact's data, even the species that built the technology couldn't fully grasp. She gestured to the display. "We didn't just understand their technology, we improved it significantly." And you think these Dravik aliens know this? Director Thompson asked. I think they suspect something, Dr. Okafor replied. Their ultimatum specifically mentioned our dangerous technological advancement potential. They see us as a threat not for what we are now, but for what we could become very soon. The president's expression hardened with resolve. Then we show them exactly what they fear. Dr. Okafor, you have authorization to deploy Project Prometheus. Admiral Vasquez, prepare a delegation to meet with this council, but they'll go armed with knowledge, not submission. And if things go wrong? General Wei asked. Then humanity will make its last stand, the president answered. But we will not surrender our future to alien overseers. 6 hours later, a small Earth shuttle approached the massive Dravik command ship. Inside, Ambassador James Rivera, the president's brother and Earth's most skilled diplomat, sat with Dr. Okafor and General Wei. None of them carried visible weapons, but each wore a small device on their wrist that connected them to Project Prometheus. Remember, Ambassador Rivera said quietly as their shuttle was guided into a cavernous docking bay, we're not here to provoke conflict. We're here to make them reconsider the wisdom of threatening Earth. Dr. Okafor nodded, checking the data feed on her wrist device. Prometheus is at 97% capacity. Admiral Vasquez has control authorization if we give the signal. The shuttle doors opened to reveal a delegation of the tall, scaled Dravik aliens, flanked by what appeared to be robotic guards. The lead alien stepped forward. I am Sub-Executor Nardak. You will follow me to the council chambers. Any deviation will be considered hostile action. Ambassador Rivera stood tall. We understand. We've come in good faith to hear the council's concerns. As they walked through the massive ship, General Wei carefully observed everything: the layout, the visible technology, the number and positioning of guards. His military training told him they were being shown strength intentionally, guided through areas that displayed the Dravik's technological superiority. They entered an enormous spherical chamber filled with holographic representatives from hundreds of alien species. At the center, Supreme Executor Voldrek waited on an elevated platform. The humans have arrived, Voldrek announced to the assembly. Today marks the integration of Earth into the galactic hegemony under Council protection and guidance. Ambassador Rivera stepped forward. We appreciate the Council's interest in Earth, but we've come to discuss terms, not to surrender our sovereignty. A murmur rippled through the alien representatives. This was clearly not the expected response. Voldrek's secondary breathing membranes fluttered in what appeared to be irritation. There are no terms to discuss. Your species has been evaluated and found in need of supervision. This is the natural order for emerging civilizations. And yet, Dr. Okafor said, activating her wrist device to project data into the chamber's central display. Your evaluation seems incomplete. The display showed energy patterns emanating from Earth that caused visible reactions among the council members. Impossible, one alien representative hissed. They couldn't have developed quantum fold technology independently. We didn't, Dr. Okafor replied calmly. We found remnants of someone else's technology and we made it better. Ambassador Rivera looked directly at Voldrek. You came to Earth expecting submission from a primitive species. Instead, you found humans. We don't surrender easily and we never stop learning. He raised his hand, showing his wrist device. Right now, Project Prometheus is active. Every ship in your fleet has been targeted with technology you clearly recognize but don't fully understand. Voldrek's multiple eyes narrowed. You bluff. No emerging species could. General Wei tapped his own device. On the main display, the image changed to show the Dravik fleet surrounding Earth, with energy patterns now visibly surrounding each vessel. This isn't a bluff, the general said simply. This is a demonstration. And in that moment, the Galactic Council faced something they had never encountered before. A young species that refused to be intimidated and had the unexpected power to back it up. The astonishment in the Galactic Council was just beginning. Silence gripped the vast spherical council chamber. The holographic displays showing Earth's unexpected technological capabilities hung in the air, casting an eerie blue glow across the faces of hundreds of alien representatives. Supreme Executor Voldrek's multiple eyes blinked rapidly, a sign of distress that Ambassador Rivera had quickly learned to recognize. This is unprecedented, Voldrek finally said, his voice losing some of its earlier confidence. No species at your development stage has ever possessed quantum fold technology. Perhaps your assessment metrics need updating, Ambassador Rivera replied calmly. He stood tall in the center of the chamber, flanked by Dr. Okafor and General Wei. Humans adapt quickly. A tall, crystalline being rose from the upper tiers of the chamber. Light refracted through its translucent body as it spoke, its words translated into a series of musical tones. The Inner Council requests verification of the human claim. If they truly control quantum fold technology, they must demonstrate it. General Wei stepped forward. A reasonable request. He tapped his wrist device, establishing a direct connection with Admiral Vasquez back on Earth. Admiral, execute Prometheus Phase 1, he ordered. Single vessel demonstration. On the main display, the image shifted to show real-time footage of the Dravik fleet surrounding Earth. One ship, a mid-sized cruiser at the fleet's edge, was suddenly enveloped in a shimmering field of energy. Before the astonished eyes of the Galactic Council, the vessel vanished. Alarms blared throughout the council chamber. Voldrek barked orders in his native language to nearby commanders. Where is the vengeance? Locate it immediately. Dr. Okafor smiled slightly as she adjusted her own wrist device. The display changed again, now showing the missing Dravik cruiser orbiting Jupiter's moon Europa, hundreds of millions of miles from its original position. Your vessel is unharmed, she explained. We've simply relocated it. The crew is safe, though likely confused. The council chamber erupted in chaos. Representatives from dozens of species spoke over one another, some in obvious alarm, others in what seemed like excitement. Voldrek raised all four of his limbs, calling for order. This technology is restricted by galactic law, he declared. Its unsupervised development by an emerging species represents a grave threat to cosmic stability. And yet, Ambassador Rivera countered, you brought 300 warships to threaten our world. Where's the cosmic stability in that action, Executor? From the council's upper tiers, a reptilian delegate with iridescent scales and elaborate ceremonial armor rose to speak. The humans raise a valid point. Our first contact protocols specifically prohibit intimidation tactics. Executor Voldrek's approach violated our own laws. Voldrek's breathing membranes fluttered in obvious agitation. Delegate Thrax, the Inner Council authorized exceptional measures due to the unusual energy signatures detected from Earth. We had reason to believe they were developing dangerous capabilities. Which we have, General Wei interjected, but not with any hostile intent until you surrounded our planet with weapons of mass destruction. Dr. Okafor stepped forward, changing the holographic display once more. Now it showed complex mathematical equations and energy patterns. We discovered artifacts on Mars 20 Earth years ago. Technology left by a species unknown to us. We studied it, understood it, and yes, improved upon it. This is what humans do. We learn, we innovate. The crystalline being chimed again. The artifacts you found were precursor technology. They vanished from the galaxy 50,000 cycles ago. No species since has fully decoded their science. Until now, Ambassador Rivera said simply. A new silence fell over the chamber, different from the shocked quiet of before. This was contemplative, calculating. The representatives of the galactic hegemony were reassessing their approach to humanity in real time. A small, gray-skinned being with large black eyes and a delicate frame moved to the chamber's center. I am High Minister Elox of the Scientific Directorate. The humans have demonstrated technological understanding beyond our expectations. I propose a recess to consider a different approach to Earth's integration into the hegemony. Voldrek clearly wanted to object, but the murmur of agreement from around the chamber was too strong to ignore. The council will recess for one standard rotation. The human delegation will be provided appropriate accommodations aboard the flagship. As the council members dispersed, Ambassador Rivera turned to his companions and spoke in a low voice. They're scared, and they're buying time. Good, General Wei replied quietly. So are we. The quarters assigned to the human delegation were luxurious but clearly monitored. Hidden surveillance devices tracked their every movement. Not that Dr. Okafor had any trouble detecting them. She sat cross-legged on a cushioned platform that adjusted to her body's contours, tapping at her wrist device. Admiral Vasquez confirms that Project Prometheus remains at full operational status, she reported. The Dravik cruiser has been returned to the main fleet as a gesture of good faith. But our targeting locks remain active on all vessels. Ambassador Rivera nodded, gazing out a viewport at the star-filled expanse. They'll be debating how to handle us now. We've upset their established order. Their established order needed upsetting, General Wei said, inspecting the alien food that had been provided. Their approach suggests they've done this before intimidating developing worlds into submission. That's exactly what they've done, came a new voice from the chamber. Entrance. The humans turned to see the small, gray-skinned alien, High Minister Elox, entering with 2 assistants. None carried visible weapons. I apologize for the intrusion, Elox said. My visit is not officially sanctioned, but I believed it necessary. Ambassador Rivera gestured to an empty seating platform. Please join us, Minister. We welcome the opportunity for more balanced dialogue. Elox sat, his large eyes blinking slowly. What I am about to share violates several hegemony protocols, but after witnessing your technological capabilities, I believe you deserve to know the truth before tomorrow's session. Dr. Okafor raised an eyebrow. The truth about what? About why the Council is so afraid of Earth, Elox replied. He produced a small device and activated it, creating a privacy field that disrupted the room's surveillance. For the past 10,000 years, the hegemony has followed the same procedure, with all developing worlds that show signs of rapid advancement. They appear with overwhelming force, demand submission, and place permanent advisors to guide the species' development along approved channels. Approved by whom? General Wei asked. By the Inner Council, the 12 oldest species in the hegemony, Elox explained. They determine which technologies are safe for widespread use and which must remain restricted. Ambassador Rivera frowned. That seems arbitrary. It is entirely arbitrary, Elox agreed. And worse, it is manipulative. The scientific directorate has long suspected that the Inner Council has deliberately suppressed certain technological paths while encouraging others. Dr. Okafor leaned forward. The quantum fold technology? Elox nodded. Among others. But what makes Earth's situation unique is not just that you developed this technology independently, it's where your planet is located. He activated a holographic star chart showing Earth's solar system, surrounded by unusual energy patterns invisible to human instruments. Your world exists at the intersection of 7 dimensional fault lines, Elox continued. Such convergences are extraordinarily rare. The energy potential of such a nexus is incalculable. General Wei's eyes narrowed, and the hegemony wants to control this energy potential. Precisely, Elox confirmed. The official records claim that worlds at dimensional nexus points must be carefully monitored to prevent catastrophic failures that could damage space-time itself. But my research suggests something far more troubling. They don't want to prevent catastrophes, Dr. Okafor said, her voice barely above a whisper as the implications became clear. They want to control when they happen. Elox's large eyes met hers. The last Nexus world was home to a species called the Krell. Their civilization was approaching technological singularity when the hegemony made first contact. 3 centuries later, their planet suffered a dimensional collapse that released enough energy to power the hegemony's core worlds for 5,000 years. A heavy silence fell over the room as the humans processed this information. Ambassador Rivera was the first to speak. You're telling us the hegemony deliberately engineered the destruction of an entire civilization for energy. I have only circumstantial evidence, Elox said, but I believe it has happened at least 7 times in the hegemony's history. Always with the same pattern: discovery of a nexus world, controlled technological development, then catastrophic accident when the energy matrix reaches optimal capacity. General Wei's face hardened. And Earth is next on their list. Unless you can change the pattern, Elox replied. Your unexpected mastery of quantum fold technology has already disrupted their standard approach. Tomorrow, the Council will likely offer you extremely generous terms: technology sharing, trade benefits, cultural exchange, but they will insist on permanent advisory teams with access to your research facilities. Teams that would guide our development toward their desired outcome, Dr. Okafor concluded. Elox stood, deactivating the privacy field. I must return before my absence is noticed. But consider this. Nearly 2/3 of the hegemony's member worlds have no knowledge of the Inner Council's true agenda. if irrefutable evidence were presented to the full council. He left the implication hanging in the air as he departed, leaving the humans with a decision that would affect not just Earth, but potentially hundreds of other worlds. Ambassador Rivera turned to his companions. It seems we have work to do before tomorrow's session. Dr. Okafor was already typing commands into her wrist device.
Admiral Vasquez needs to know about this immediately.
And I need access to the Hegemony's historical archives. You'll never get clearance, General Wei pointed out. A determined smile spread across Dr. Okafor's face. Who said anything about clearance? Project Prometheus can do more than just relocate spaceships. The stage was set for a confrontation that would shake the foundations of the Galactic Hegemony, and it would begin with humanity walking away from the deal they were about to be offered. The Hegemony Archive was a massive structure, nestled within the heart of the flagship. Towering data columns glowed with stored knowledge spanning tens of thousands of years. Dr. Amara Okafor moved silently through the dimly lit corridors, her presence masked by a field generated from her modified wrist device. Behind her followed Trell, a six-limbed archivist with translucent skin that pulsed with nervous energy. "We have only 20 minutes before the security protocols reset," Trell whispered, each of his limbs moving in different patterns of agitation. "What you ask is forbidden. No visiting species is ever permitted unrestricted access to the historical archives." "And yet here we are," Amara replied calmly, her fingers dancing across the alien interface. The wrist device Project Prometheus had provided translated the symbols instantly, allowing her to navigate the vast database with increasing speed. "If we are discovered, I will be mind-wiped at best, executed at worst," Trell continued, his bioluminescent nervous system flaring with anxiety. "Focus, please," Amara said not unkindly. "The dimensional nexus worlds. I need complete records, not just the official summaries provided to the General Council." Trell hesitated, then extended three of his limbs toward the central data column. His translucent fingers seemed to merge with the technology as he bypassed layers of security protocols. "There," he said, voice trembling. "Inner Council restricted files. You have approximately 15 minutes before the system recognizes the unauthorized access pattern." Amara worked quickly, downloading vast amounts of data as her eyes scanned the historical records. She found what she was looking for almost immediately. 7 worlds, she murmured. 7 civilizations, all at nexus points like Earth. The display showed star charts spanning thousands of years, each marking a world with energy patterns similar to Earth's. As she accessed the classified files on each world, a disturbing pattern emerged. "The Krell were just the most recent," she said, her voice hardening as the evidence mounted. "Before them, the Vox system. Before that, Denarius IV. Each developed to a specific technological threshold, each guided by hegemony advisors, and each suffered catastrophic dimensional collapse." Trell's skin flickered with patterns of distress. The official records claim these were tragic accidents, unavoidable consequences of developing certain technologies too quickly. "But these aren't accidents," Amara replied, displaying internal communications between inner council members spanning centuries. "They're harvests. The energy release from each dimensional collapse powered the hegemony core worlds for millennia." She downloaded the final files just as alarms began to sound throughout the archive. Trell pulled his limbs from the data column, his whole body now pulsing with fear. "We must leave immediately. Security drones will arrive within moments." Amara nodded, securing the precious data before reactivating her concealment field. "Lead the way." "And Trell, thank you. You've helped save an entire world." The archivist's translucent skin flushed briefly with pride before terror reasserted itself. "If we survive the next 5 minutes, perhaps I will appreciate that fact more fully." Meanwhile, in the diplomatic quarters, Ambassador Rivera and General Wei were engaged in tense negotiations with a delegation of mid-level hegemony officials. The aliens clearly sought to gauge humanity's expectations before the full council reconvened. Of course, Earth would receive most favored species status immediately, a purple-skinned diplomat was saying. Technology exchanges, trade routes, cultural integration, all expedited without the usual centuries of probationary status. "Remarkably generous," Ambassador Rivera noted, his expression revealing nothing. "And in exchange?" "Merely the presence of hegemony advisory teams in your key research facilities," another delegate replied smoothly. For mutual benefit and safety, you understand. General Wei leaned forward. And these advisory teams would have input on all technological development paths? Input, yes. Guidance, certainly. But Earth would maintain its sovereignty, the purple diplomat assured them with a gesture that seemed equivalent to a smile. The door to the chamber slid open unexpectedly. Dr. Okafor entered, looking slightly disheveled but triumphant. Behind her came Admiral Vasquez, who had most definitely not been part of the original Earth delegation. Admiral? Ambassador Rivera stood, genuine surprise on his face. How did you— Project Prometheus has more applications than we initially revealed, Elena Vasquez replied with a tight smile. She turned to the startled hegemony officials. Your security is impressive but insufficient. The aliens rose in alarm, one reaching for a communication device. General Wei moved faster, his hand closing around the alien's wrist. I wouldn't, he said quietly. This conversation is now private. Dr. Okafor activated her wrist device, projecting a holographic display in the center of the room. We've access to your restricted archives. We know the truth about the dimensional nexus worlds. We know about the Krell, the Vox, all 7 civilizations that you've sacrificed for energy. The hegemony officials froze, their expressions shifting to something unreadable to human eyes, but their body language conveyed unmistakable shock. These are inner council classified files, one whispered. How could you possibly— As I said, Admiral Vasquez interrupted. Your security is insufficient. And now, so is your bargaining position. Ambassador Rivera stepped into the center of the room. When the council reconvenes, we will not be accepting your terms. In fact, we will be presenting terms of our own, along with this evidence shared simultaneously with every member world of the hegemony. The purple diplomat's skin darkened with emotion. You cannot. The stability of the entire hegemony depends on managed energy resources. The Inner Council's methods may seem harsh, but they have maintained peace across thousands of worlds for millennia. Peace built on genocide is no peace at all, General Wei replied. It's just a pause between atrocities. Dr. Okafor manipulated her holographic display, now showing an alternative energy generation system. Humanity has found another way. By working with the natural dimensional flows at nexus points rather than creating catastrophic collapses, we can generate sustainable energy. More energy, in fact, than your harvesting program produces. The hegemony officials stared at the display in clear disbelief. Impossible, one muttered. The Inner Council's best scientists have searched for alternatives for thousands of years. Perhaps they weren't motivated to find one, Admiral Vasquez suggested. Power corrupts regardless of species. Ambassador Rivera addressed the stunned officials directly. We're offering the hegemony a choice. Continue on a path of destruction that will now be exposed to all your member worlds, or embrace a new approach that doesn't require sacrificing entire civilizations. The room fell silent as the implications settled over everyone present. Finally, the lead hegemony diplomat spoke. The Inner Council will resist. They have held power too long to relinquish it willingly. We expected as much, General Wei said. That's why we've taken precautions. Admiral Vasquez smiled thinly. While this conversation has been occurring, Project Prometheus has been busy. We've established quantum fold links with every major population center in the hegemony. When we present our evidence to the full council, it will simultaneously appear on every communication network across your territory. Dr. Okafor added, along with our alternative energy proposal. Your people can decide for themselves which path they prefer. The lead diplomat's eyes widened. You would trigger civil war within the hegemony. We would trigger the truth, Ambassador Rivera corrected. What happens after that is up to your people. When the Galactic Council reconvened, the chamber was filled to capacity. Word had spread of the humans' technological demonstration, and representatives from every member species crowded the tiered seating. Supreme Executor Voldrek took his elevated position, his multiple eyes surveying the assembly with obvious satisfaction. Honored representatives, he began, his voice carrying throughout the vast chamber. After productive discussions, I am pleased to announce that humanity has agreed to join the hegemony under our guidance and protection. Their remarkable achievements will be properly channeled for the benefit of all. Ambassador Rivera stood at the center of the chamber with his 3 companions. His expression remained diplomatic, but his eyes had hardened. I'm afraid the Supreme Executor is mistaken, he announced, his voice equally clear. Humanity will not be accepting the hegemony's terms. In fact, we are walking away from this deal entirely. A shocked murmur spread through the assembly. Voldrek's breathing membranes fluttered in obvious agitation. This is irregular, he managed, his confidence visibly faltering. Perhaps the humans misunderstood the generous nature of our offer. We understood perfectly, Dr. Okafor replied, activating the main display system, including what wasn't being offered. The display filled with the classified records from the Inner Council archives, detailed accounts of the 7 civilizations sacrificed for energy, internal communications discussing Earth's potential as the next harvest, and projections of the catastrophic dimensional collapse that would eventually be engineered for humanity. We know the truth about dimensional nexus worlds, Admiral Vasquez declared, her voice ringing with authority. We know what you did to the Krell, to the Vox, to all of them. And we know what you planned for Earth. The council chamber exploded into chaos. Representatives from hundreds of worlds reacted with shock, outrage, or desperate attempts to maintain order. From the upper tiers, the crystalline being chimed in distress. Is this verified? It demanded. Are these records authentic? High Minister Elok stepped forward from his section, his large eyes fixed on Voldrek. The scientific directorate has suspected this for centuries. These records confirm our worst fears. Voldrek's composed demeanor finally cracked. This is treason. Classified information cannot be what? General Wei interrupted. Shared with the very civilizations whose existence depends on it? Is it treason to expose genocide? Ambassador Rivera faced the entire council now, not just Voldrek. Humanity came here prepared to join a community of spacefaring civilizations. Instead, we found predators wearing the mask of mentors. Dr. Okafor changed the display to show her alternative energy generation system. But we're offering something better. A way to use dimensional nexus points without destroying the civilizations that live on them. Sustainable energy that can power your worlds for millennia, without a single life lost. From across the chamber, representatives began to call out questions, demands for verification, expressions of outrage. The carefully maintained order of the galactic hegemony was fracturing before everyone's eyes. Ambassador Rivera raised his hand for silence, and remarkably the chamber quieted. Humanity will not be your next sacrifice, he declared. Furthermore, we've transmitted this evidence to every populated world in the hegemony. Your people now know the price that has been paid for their energy. Voldrek's expression transformed into something truly alien, rage mixed with fear. You have no concept of what you've done, human. The energy needs of the hegemony can be met through actual cooperation and innovation, Ambassador Rivera finished, or the hegemony can collapse under the weight of its own secrets. Either way, humanity walks away from this deal. He turned to his companions. We're leaving now. Admiral, if you would. Admiral Vasquez activated her wrist device. The 4 humans were enveloped in the shimmering field of Project Prometheus's quantum fold technology. As the astonished council watched, they vanished from the chamber, leaving behind a hegemony forever, changed by humanity's refusal to be sacrificed. The quantum fold transport deposited the 4 humans directly onto the bridge of Orbital Defense Station Olympus. The station's crew stared in momentary shock before erupting in cheers. Admiral Vasquez stepped forward, immediately taking command of the situation. Status report, she ordered as the celebration quieted. The Dravik fleet remains in position around Earth, Lieutenant Commander Jackson reported, but we're detecting unusual energy fluctuations. It appears they're preparing weapon systems. Ambassador Rivera moved to the main viewport watching the distant alien ships. They're not going to let us walk away that easily. They don't have a choice, Dr. Okafor replied, connecting her wrist device to the station's main systems. Data from the hegemony archives flowed onto the station's displays. Project Prometheus gives us the advantage. We can target their engines, weapons, or simply relocate their entire fleet if necessary. Let's not be hasty, Rivera cautioned. We've just destabilized a galactic power structure that stood for thousands of years. There will be factions within the hegemony, some who want to destroy us, others who might become allies. General Wei nodded in agreement. The Supreme Executor and the Inner Council have lost face. Their immediate response will be aggressive, but others in the hegemony may see this as an opportunity for change. As if to confirm this assessment, the communication system activated with an incoming transmission. The holographic display showed not Voldrek, but High Minister Elox alongside the crystalline being from the council chambers. Earth representatives, Elox began, his large eyes blinking rapidly. The council is in chaos. The inner council has ordered your immediate destruction, but many representatives are opposing this action. We don't have much time. The crystalline being chimed in, its bell-like tones translated into English. I am Premier Lyrics of the Tholian Assembly. 1/3 of the hegemony fleet has already declared they will not fire upon Earth. Another third remains loyal to the inner council. The rest await developments. Admiral Vasquez's expression remained stone-faced. And what do you suggest we do, Premier? The evidence you presented cannot be denied, Lyrics replied. 217 worlds have already declared they will no longer recognize inner council authority. More will follow. But Voldrek controls the most powerful warships in the fleet, and he is coming for Earth, not just to destroy your planet, but to collapse your dimensional nexus and harvest its energy despite the revelations. Ambassador Rivera exchanged glances with his companions. How long do we have? Less than one Earth rotation, Alox said grimly. Voldrek is gathering loyal forces now. Then we need to prepare, General Way stated. He turned to Admiral Vasquez. Can Earth's defenses withstand a determined attack from even 1/3 of that fleet? Not conventionally, she admitted. But with Project Prometheus fully operational, Dr. Okafor was already working at a nearby console. I need to recalibrate the quantum fold matrices. Defensive applications require more precision than simply relocating ships. And we need to protect the entire planet, not just our military installations. Do what you need to do, Admiral Vasquez ordered. Ambassador Rivera, I suggest you brief the President and the United Earth Defense Council immediately. General Way, coordinate with our ground and orbital forces. We need to prepare for the possibility that some enemy ships may get through. As the team dispersed to their tasks, Lieutenant Commander Jackson approached Admiral Vasquez. Ma'am, we're receiving thousands of transmissions from across the hegemony territory. Many worlds are requesting direct communication with Earth's leadership. Route them through diplomatic channels, Vasquez replied. We may be gathering allies for the coming conflict. On the main display, the Dravik fleet had begun to move. Some vessels were taking positions in defensive formations around Earth. These were the ships that had declared against the inner council. Others were pulling back, forming a separate group some distance away. And a third contingent, led by Voldrek's massive flagship, was departing the system entirely. They're going to gather reinforcements, General Way observed. Then we better be ready when they return, Ambassador Rivera said, his voice resolute. 12 hours later, the United Earth Defense Council convened an emergency session. President Rivera stood at the head of the circular table as Ambassador Rivera concluded his report on the Galactic Council revelations. So to summarize, the President said, we've exposed a millennia-old conspiracy, triggered what amounts to a civil war in an interstellar civilization, and now face imminent attack from the most powerful faction of that civilization. That's an accurate assessment, Madam President, Ambassador Rivera confirmed. The President's expression was grim but determined. And what are our options? Dr. Okafor stepped forward, displaying the latest data from Project Prometheus. We've successfully adapted the quantum fold technology for planetary defense. We can create a shield that will redirect any weapon fired at Earth. However, maintaining such a shield requires enormous energy. Can we sustain it through a prolonged conflict? Asked the Defense Minister. For approximately 72 hours at full capacity, Dr. Okafor replied. After that, we would need to implement my alternative energy generation system using Earth's dimensional nexus points. The same system you proposed to the hegemony? The President asked. Yes, but with refinements. The system is ready for immediate implementation, but activating it would temporarily reduce our defensive capabilities. General Way spoke up. Which means we need to resolve this conflict quickly. We can't afford a prolonged siege. High Minister Elox and Premier Lyrics joined the meeting via holographic projection. The two alien representatives had become de facto leaders of the rebellion against the Inner Council. Supreme Executor Voldrek has recalled all loyal vessels, Lyrics reported, light refracting through his crystalline form. Our intelligence suggests he plans to return with a force of over 500 warships within 16 Earth hours. His strategy is likely to overwhelm your defenses with sheer numbers, Elox added. Even with your quantum fold technology, defending against so many simultaneous attacks will be challenging. Admiral Vasquez studied the tactical display showing the approaching enemy fleet. We need to take the fight to them before they reach Earth. A preemptive strike against their command ships. That would require leaving Earth temporarily vulnerable, General Wei pointed out. Not necessarily, Dr. Okafor interjected. She manipulated the display to show a new configuration of quantum fold generators. If we position these generators at strategic points throughout the solar system, we can create fold corridors that would allow our ships to strike and return almost instantly. The president considered this information. What about our potential allies within the hegemony? How many ships can we count on? Approximately 400 vessels have declared against the Inner Council, Premier Lyrics replied. However, they are scattered throughout hegemony territory. Many are being engaged by loyal forces. Perhaps 100 could reach Earth in time to assist with its defense. Better than nothing, Admiral Vasquez said, but still outnumbered. Ambassador Rivera had been quiet, studying the data. Now he looked up. There's another option. The evidence we revealed showed that the Inner Council has been lying to the hegemony for millennia. But what if we could demonstrate our alternative energy system works? Not just theoretically, but practically? Dr. Okafor's eyes widened with understanding. A real-time demonstration during the battle? Exactly, Rivera confirmed. If we can show the remaining neutral factions that there's a better way, one that doesn't require sacrificing entire civilizations, we might sway them to our side. It's risky, General Wei cautioned. Implementing the system during an attack would divide our resources. But the potential reward is worth it, the president decided. We need to end this conflict decisively, not just survive the first attack. Admiral Vasquez, prepare our forces for both defense and the preemptive strike. Dr. Okafor, get your energy system ready for demonstration. Ambassador Rivera, ensure our communication channels remain open to all hegemony worlds so they can witness what happens. As the meeting concluded, the president addressed the room one final time. Humanity didn't ask for this confrontation. We simply refused to be sacrificed for someone else's benefit. But now that we're here, we will show the galaxy that there is always a better way than exploitation and destruction. Prepare your teams. Earth stands united against this threat. 8 hours later, Earth's orbital defenses were fully activated. The quantum fold generators created an invisible shield around the planet, while smaller generators had been positioned throughout the solar system, creating the strategic corridors Admiral Vasquez had requested. On the bridge of the EDS, Prometheus, Earth's first true quantum fold-capable warship, Admiral Vasquez reviewed the final battle preparations. The vessel had been under construction in secret for years, its existence known to only a handful of people until the Dravik fleet arrived. All systems operational, reported the ship's captain, a veteran named Michael Torres. Quantum fold drives at full capacity. Weapons systems online. Admiral Vasquez nodded in satisfaction. And our allies? 86 hegemony vessels have arrived in system, Lieutenant Commander Jackson reported from his tactical station. They've taken up defensive positions as requested. Another 30 are expected within the next 2 hours. And the enemy? Long-range sensors detect Voldrek's fleet approaching the outer system boundary. Current count, 512 vessels. Estimated arrival at Earth, 5 hours 17 minutes. Vasquez studied the tactical display. Sooner than expected. They must be pushing their engines beyond safe limits. Ambassador Rivera, who had insisted on joining the flagship, looked troubled. They're desperate. Voldrek knows that every hour more hegemony worlds are turning against the Inner Council. He needs a decisive victory, or at least to destroy Earth and harvest its energy, to maintain control. Then we don't give him either opportunity, Vasquez replied firmly. She opened a channel to all Earth and allied vessels. All ships, this is Admiral Vasquez. The enemy approaches in overwhelming numbers, but they face something they've never encountered before. A species that refuses to be sacrificed, that innovates rather than exploits, and that fights not just for its own survival but for justice across the stars. She paused, looking at the faces of her crew, humans who had never imagined they would be fighting an interstellar war, yet stood ready to defend their world. In 5 hours, we will meet the largest hostile fleet ever to enter our solar system. We will demonstrate that Earth's dimensional nexus can power a new era of prosperity, without destruction, and we will show the galaxy that humanity does not stand alone. As the transmission ended, Admiral Vasquez turned to Captain Torres. Bring us to battle stations. Deploy quantum fold corridors as planned. When Voldrek's fleet enters the outer system, Operation Prometheus begins. On the main viewer, Earth glowed blue and white against the blackness of space, surrounded by the combined human and rebel hegemony fleet, a small but determined force preparing to face an armada bent on destruction. The final confrontation was about to begin, and with it, the future of not just Earth but the entire galactic hegemony hung in the balance. 1 solar year after the revelation at the Galactic Council, Earth's orbital space bustled with activity unlike anything humanity had ever witnessed. Ships from dozens of former hegemony worlds filled the docking bays of the massive Harmony Station, a joint construction project that symbolized the new interstellar order. Admiral Elena Vasquez stood on the observation deck, watching as vessels of every conceivable design arrived for the first anniversary summit of what was now called the Galactic Cooperative. Hard to believe that just a year ago they were planning to sacrifice our planet, Lieutenant Commander Jackson commented as he joined her at the viewport. Fear and desperation drive terrible decisions, Elena replied, her eyes tracking a crystalline vessel as it gracefully maneuvered into position. The hegemony depended on harvested energy for millennia. Breaking that addiction wasn't going to be peaceful. The civil war within the galactic community had been brief, but devastating. When the truth of the harvesting program was revealed, nearly 2/3 of the Council worlds had broken away, forming the cooperative. The remaining hegemony hardliners had retreated to the galactic core, still clinging to their old ways under Supreme Executor Voldrek's increasingly desperate leadership. Admiral, a communications officer called from across the deck. We're detecting unusual energy signatures at the edge of the solar system. Configuration matches hegemony stealth technology. Elena's expression hardened. Again, that's the 3rd probe this month. They never learn. She moved to the central command console and activated the quantum fold defense grid, Earth's most formidable protection system. Based on Dr. Okafor's revolutionary work with Project Prometheus, the grid could detect, track, and neutralize threats across the entire solar system. Probe located. The defense system's AI reported. Preparing countermeasures. Hold, Elena ordered. Something's different about this one. It's broadcasting on an open channel. She enhanced the incoming transmission. The holographic display revealed not a probe but a small craft. And aboard it was a face Elena recognized immediately, Supreme Executor Voldrek himself. This is Voldrek of the Hegemony Remnant, the alien announced, his multiple eyes blinking in what humans had learned to recognize as a sign of stress. I request safe passage to Earth under diplomatic protocol. I come alone and unarmed. Elena exchanged a surprised glance with Jackson. Verify, she ordered. Scans confirm, the officer reported after a moment. Single occupant. No weapon signatures. It's really him. Why would the leader of the Hegemony Remnant come here alone? Jackson wondered. There's only one way to find out, Elena replied, opening a channel. Supreme Executor Voldrek, this is Admiral Vasquez of Earth. State your purpose. I come to negotiate the final surrender of the Hegemony Remnant, Voldrek responded, his voice lacking the imperious tone Elena remembered from their first encounter. The situation has become untenable. 2 hours later, Earth's leadership gathered in the secure conference room of Harmony Station. President Rivera sat at the head of the table, flanked by Admiral Vasquez, General Wei, and Ambassador James Rivera. Across from them sat Voldrek, once the most powerful being in the galaxy, now visibly diminished. Our energy reserves are nearly depleted, Voldrek explained without preamble. Without access to either harvesting or your alternative system, the core worlds face total collapse within 60 days. And you expect us to help after you tried to destroy Earth 3 times in the past year? General Wei asked skeptically. Voldrek's breathing membranes fluttered in what might have been embarrassment. Those were miscalculations. We believed your sustainable energy system was propaganda, a trick to sway worlds to your cause. And now? President Rivera prompted. Now we have verified that it functions exactly as claimed, Voldrek admitted. The worlds that joined your cooperative are thriving. Energy production has increased threefold without a single-dimensional collapse. It is impressive. Ambassador Rivera leaned forward. Let me be clear, Executor. You're asking for access to the cooperative energy grid, the same technology you dismissed as impossible, then tried to destroy. Yes, Voldrek said simply. In exchange, the hegemony remnant will cease all hostilities, surrender its military assets, and recognize the cooperative as the legitimate successor to the hegemony. The humans exchanged glances. This was more than they had expected, the complete capitulation of an empire that had ruled for 10,000 years. Why come personally? Admiral Vasquez asked. You could have sent representatives. Voldrek's multiple eyes focused on her. Because this marks the end of an era. The hegemony as we knew it is finished. I wished to witness its transformation firsthand, and to understand what truly happened. How did Earth, a single world with no allies, manage to dismantle our entire civilization in less than one Earth year? President Rivera considered the alien carefully. We walked away from your deal. That's what happened, Executor. When faced with submission or destruction, humanity found a third option. Yes, Voldrek acknowledged, but others have resisted before. None succeeded. Because they tried to beat you at your own game, Ambassador Rivera explained. They fought against your technological superiority and lost. We didn't fight, we innovated. We found a better solution to the same problem your harvesting program was trying to solve. Dr. Amara Okafor entered the conference room carrying data tablets. She had been summoned from the nearest dimensional nexus research station specifically for this meeting. Dr. Okafor, Voldrek said, recognizing her immediately. The architect of the sustainable energy system. Amara nodded curtly to the alien before addressing the gathering. I've reviewed the energy reports from the core worlds. The situation is actually worse than Voldrek is admitting. Total system failure will begin within 30 days, not 60. You could have let us collapse, Voldrek said quietly. After what we attempted to do to Earth, many would say we deserve it. Perhaps General Wei conceded. But that's not how the cooperative operates. We don't sacrifice civilizations, even former enemies. President Rivera stood, making her decision. The cooperative will extend the energy grid to the core worlds, preventing their collapse. In exchange, the complete dissolution of the hegemony remnant and full integration of all former hegemony worlds into the cooperative as equal members. Equal? Voldrek questioned. Even the inner council species? Even them, Ambassador Rivera confirmed. The cooperative doesn't recognize hierarchies of species. That was the fundamental flaw in the hegemony's design, the belief that some civilizations had the right to prosper at the expense of others. Voldrek was silent for a long moment, absorbing this information. Finally he spoke. I accept your terms. The hegemony remnant will disband. The core worlds will join your cooperative as equal members. As the details were negotiated and agreements prepared, Voldrek requested a private word with Ambassador Rivera. The two stepped onto an observation deck overlooking Earth. When we first detected your world, Voldrek said, gazing at the blue planet, we followed the same protocol we had used successfully for millennia. We studied your technology, your weapons, your history, but we missed something crucial. What was that? Rivera asked. Your psychology, Voldrek replied. The human capacity to reject false choices and create new options. When we said submit or be destroyed, every other species in our history chose submission. You simply walked away and built something better. Rivera smiled slightly. That's the most human thing about us, Executor. We don't accept limitations easily. No, Voldrek agreed. You don't. And the galaxy is forever changed because of it. 1 week later, the Harmony Station's Grand Assembly Hall was filled to capacity. Representatives from over 300 worlds, including the recently integrated core systems, gathered to witness the formal dissolution of the Galactic, hegemony, and the completion of the cooperative's formation. Dr. Okafor stood at the central podium, presenting the final energy grid reports. Holographic displays showed the network of sustainable collection points at dimensional nexus sites across the galaxy, all linked through quantum fold technology. With the integration of the core world's nexus points, the grid now operates at 400% of our original projections, she reported. Energy distribution reaches every member world equally, with no rationing or shortages predicted for the foreseeable future. Premier Lyrics of the Crystalline Confederation, who had become one of the cooperative's chief administrators, chimed melodically. Without the need for harvesting, without the sacrifice of entire civilizations, we have achieved what the hegemony claimed was impossible: true energy abundance for all worlds. Ambassador Rivera watched the proceedings with satisfaction. Earth's delegation now sat among hundreds of alien species as equals, not conquerors or victims, but partners in building a new interstellar community. Voldrek, no longer bearing the title of Supreme Executor but serving as a transitional advisor, addressed the assembly. For 10,000 years, the hegemony maintained what we called peace through necessary sacrifice. We believed there was no alternative. We were wrong. He turned to the Earth delegation. When humanity walked away from our deal, they showed the galaxy another path. The assembly hall erupted in sounds of approval from hundreds of different species. Chimes, rumbles, flashes of bioluminescence, and more alien expressions that humans were still learning to interpret. As the formal ceremony concluded, Admiral Vasquez joined Ambassador Rivera at the edge of the hall. "So it's really over," she said. "The hegemony is gone." "Not gone," Rivera corrected. "Transformed. Just as the galaxy has been transformed by what happened when Earth refused to be sacrificed." "Do you think it will last?" she asked. "This cooperative?" Rivera watched as humans mingled freely with beings of every conceivable shape and biology. Former enemies now working together on joint scientific missions, cultural exchanges, and governance structures. "It won't be perfect," he acknowledged. "Nothing involving hundreds of diverse species could be. But it's built on a foundation of actual cooperation rather than exploitation. That gives it a chance the hegemony never had." Outside the viewports of Harmony Station, Earth rotated serenely against the backdrop of space. Ships from dozens of worlds moved in careful coordination around the station, a visual representation of the new order humanity had helped create. "A year ago, we faced extinction," Admiral Vasquez reflected. "Now we help lead a coalition spanning half the galaxy. Because we refused to accept that sacrifice was the only option," Ambassador Rivera said. "We found a third way, in the distance. A new vessel was approaching the station, the first ship built jointly by human and alien engineers, designed to explore regions of the galaxy previously unknown to any civilization. Its name, displayed prominently on its hull in multiple languages, captured the spirit of the new era: cooperation." The astonishment in the Galactic Council when humanity walked away from the deal had been just the beginning. What followed was something no one, human or alien, could have predicted. A galaxy forever changed by the simple act of refusing to accept a false choice and offering something better instead.